Well, thanks everybody for coming to our news event this morning. I wanted to, before I start, to introduce two guests, Jonah Emery and Mary Louise Lucky. Luck, sorry.
I am lucky.
We're here this morning to talk about the Green Party's plan to rebalance the healthcare system so people can access healthcare to prevent and get on top of their health problems, whether they're physical health problems or mental problems, which is a real challenge for so many people in New Brunswick today. And at the core of this is moving primary health care out of our hospitals and into our communities. That's been the focus of the Green Party's, the core, the heart of the Green Party's healthcare platform since 2010, and that is to establish community health centers in our communities where our family doctors are working with entire teams of health professionals to focus on both delivering preventative health care, which family doctors by themselves working alone find it very difficult to do, and to provide ready access to health care same day or next day. So you've got a whole suite of health professionals on your team working for you and rooting for you as their patient to ensure that you stay well, and if you've got health problems that you can tackle those health problems effectively, whether they're physical or mental. The Green Party is committing to accelerating the development of community health centers like the one that's growing here inside the Centennial Building, the Fredericton Community Health Center, creating 2 a year each year. And that over the next 4 years would be $28 million on a capital budget to provide this vital rebalancing of our healthcare system, bringing it out of the hospitals into the communities, because of course the most expensive part of our healthcare system is what we deliver in our hospitals and drugs. And refocusing and rebalancing healthcare into our community health centers, into our communities, will reduce the reliance on drugs and reduce the reliance on hospitals. And it's important that we expand the services our community health care centers offer as well, so that they can better address issues of chronic illness, so people don't end up more in the hospital dealing with their chronic illness, but can avoid that because of regular treatment and help at the community health centers. The same thing in terms of supporting seniors with wellness programs. And we have a vision with our community health centers that they would really be able to concentrate on that. So you'd have access to nutritionists, to counselors, to nurse practitioners, to physiotherapists, to a whole range of health professionals working as part of a team with family doctors. And certainly the community health centers would begin to create a seamless healthcare system between physical and mental health care. One of the things that the Green Party is very, very strong on is expanding the proportion of the budget that the health department spends right now on mental health care. So in addition to moving primary health care out of our hospitals to our communities, we would integrate mental health care to provide access to both diagnosis and treatment. So we need to shift those resources now, and this is particularly critical in many ways, but right at this very moment, often mental health problems first arise in high schools or in universities. And at this point, access to mental health care in high schools is being cut back, is being reduced, if you can believe it. It's totally unacceptable. We've got children, young people who are struggling with the symptoms of mental illness, and have no diagnosis, don't know where to turn. Their friends are trying to help them, and they don't know where to turn. It's unacceptable. When they do get diagnosis, if they do, then it's a very long waiting period before any treatment is available, on the order of 6 months or more. We need to shift resources so people aren't losing years off their lives, years that they can never get back. That's why we want to increase the proportion of healthcare spending dedicated to mental health care, and funnel that to where it can be most effective. Today I'm pleased to introduce Jonah Emery, who is a local activist for mental health reform and who lives with bipolar disorder, and Mary Louise Luck, who is been involved in and is involved in a lot of support groups, the parent of a child, an adult child now, who has struggled with mental illness. So I'd like to invite both of you to say some words. So Jonah, why don't you begin?
Sure. My name's Jonah Emery, and as David mentioned, I've struggled with bipolar disorder most of my life from 8 years old. To me, recovery is possible, but the way that our system is right now, we just waste too many years between accepting you have a mental health issue to actually recovering. It's because you're waiting like up to 6 months to see a psychiatrist. You have to hop to the ER back and forth because you don't have access to a family doctor. You're just reaching out in all these places trying to get the help you need with no one really able there to meet it. So I've in my life have had to kind of find my own way, and that wasted a decade of my life. That if that system like David was in place, I could have spent on continuing my education, building my work life, saving relationships I've lost because I've been in illness. It's just all this stuff, because of the way our system is that like I said, I've wasted a decade. So I am in recovery now, but if mental health had more funding, if we had community care centers, I wouldn't have to rebuild my life at 32. I would have been able to rebuild my life at 22. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonah. Mary Louise.
I'm Mary Louise Lutch, and we went through many hospitalizations. We went through years of nightmare until we finally got, just through lobbying and pushing and screaming and writing letters, etc., that I did and my friends did, we got a few community resources. And now 30 years later, yes, the situation is a little bit better, but it's just a drop in the bucket. And people, young people, are still falling through the cracks, and their families are suffering. They're suffering terribly, both with their own physical health, their mental health, and their financial health, which is what happened to me. So I'm voting Green because David sees the problem and wants to do something about it. Thank you.